Ho friends, today we will discuss the topic, Rise of Islam in Bulgaria, Ottoman influence and local conversion. The story of the rise of Islam in Bulgaria is deeply intertwined with the broader history of the Ottoman Empire, the Balkans, and the religious, cultural, and political transformations that unfolded in southeastern Europe across several centuries. To understand how Islam found a permanent place in Bulgaria, one must look at the medieval Balkan context, the expansion of the Ottomans, the systems of governance they introduced, the methods of conversion that took place, and the way local populations responded to the presence of a new faith and political order. Bulgaria was historically a Christian Orthodox land under the influence of Byzantium and later an independent medieval Bulgarian Empire. For centuries, Christianity was the dominant spiritual and cultural force, shaping Bulgarian identity, language, and traditions. When the Ottomans began their gradual conquest of the Balkans in the 14th century, Bulgaria was already weakened by internal divisions, regional feudal struggles, and external pressures. This weakening created the conditions under which the Ottomans, a Muslim power rising from Anatolia, could expand into southeastern Europe and gradually incorporate Bulgaria into their imperial realm. The Ottomans did not conquer Bulgaria in a single campaign but rather through a process of military expansion, alliances, and sieges over several decades. By the late 14th century, major Bulgarian strongholds had fallen, and by 1396, after the Battle of Nicopolis, Ottoman control over Bulgarian territories became firm. With the Ottoman conquest came not only a new ruling elite but also the introduction of Islam into Bulgarian lands on a large scale. It is important to note that Islam did not suddenly replace Christianity in Bulgaria. Instead, it was introduced through a gradual process involving the settlement of Muslim populations, the establishment of Islamic institutions, and a mixture of voluntary and coerced conversions among segments of the local population. Islamization in Bulgaria, as in many other Balkan regions, was neither uniform nor total. The majority of Bulgarians remained Orthodox Christians throughout the Ottoman period, but a significant Muslim minority emerged, composed of both settlers and converts. The Ottomans employed several mechanisms that encouraged the spread of Islam. One of the most important was the system of land grants and the settlement of Muslim Turkish populations in key strategic areas. Turkish Muslim settlers established villages, towns, and administrative centers, creating a visible Muslim presence. Mosques, madrasas, baths, and markets were constructed, often becoming central points of community life. In many Bulgarian towns, mosques dominated the skyline, signaling the presence of a new religious and political order. Alongside settlement, the Ottomans used administrative and legal policies that favored Muslims. In the Ottoman legal system, non-Muslims, referred to as dhimmis, were allowed to practice their religion but were subject to certain taxes, such as the jizya. Conversion to Islam offered exemptions from these taxes and opened opportunities for upward mobility in the Ottoman administration and military. For some Bulgarians, conversion was a pragmatic decision that provided economic and social advantages. For others, it was a means of integrating into the new power structure, gaining security, or advancing in careers that were otherwise closed to non-Muslims. Another significant factor was the devshirme system, which recruited Christian boys for service in the Ottoman court and the elite Janissary corps. These boys were converted to Islam, trained, and often rose to high ranks within the empire. While the devshirme was not a mass conversion mechanism in itself, it symbolized the way in which Islam became embedded in the lives of Christian communities through state institutions. In some regions of Bulgaria, particularly in the Rhodope Mountains, entire communities converted to Islam over time. The reasons for these mass conversions are debated among historians. Some argue that coercion and pressure played a role, particularly during periods of heightened tension. Others emphasize more gradual and voluntary processes, pointing to socio-economic incentives, local dynamics, and the appeal of integrating with Ottoman structures. The Islamization of the Pomaks, Bulgarian-speaking Muslims primarily found in the Rhodope region, is a key example of this complex process. The Pomaks retained their language and many local traditions but embraced Islam, creating a unique cultural synthesis that still exists today. The Ottomans also brought with them Sufi traditions, which played a notable role in the spread of Islam in Bulgaria. Sufi orders, with their emphasis on spiritual devotion, community, and local adaptability, often had a more flexible approach to religious practice. Dervish lodges, tekkas, became centers of religious and social life, attracting local populations through their charitable works, music, rituals, and teachings. Sufism provided a bridge between local cultural practices and Islamic faith, making conversion a more gradual and less disruptive process for many Bulgarians. Over time, Muslim communities in Bulgaria became well established. Towns such as Plovdiv, Sofia, and Vidin developed substantial Muslim populations, and rural areas with Turkish settlers and Pomok converts strengthened the Muslim demographic presence. This coexistence of Christians and Muslims, while often tense, also led to cultural exchanges, intermarriages in some areas, and the creation of a shared Balkan Ottoman culture. The rise of Islam in Bulgaria cannot be understood without also recognizing the resistance it provoked. Christianity remained deeply rooted, and the Bulgarian Orthodox Church played a crucial role in preserving Bulgarian identity under Ottoman rule. Monasteries, priests, and local traditions kept the Christian faith alive and often acted as centers of resistance to Islamization. Periods of repression, such as forced conversions or destruction of churches, did occur, but so did long stretches of relative tolerance, where Christians practiced their faith while living under Muslim rule. The balance between pressure and accommodation varied depending on the time period, the region, and the policies of specific Ottoman rulers. In the 17th and 18th centuries, the Muslim population of Bulgaria had become a permanent fixture of the social landscape. Muslims were not a monolithic group but included Turks, Pomoks, Roma Muslims, and others. They lived alongside Orthodox Bulgarians, Greeks, Armenians, and Jews, creating a diverse and multi-religious environment typical of the Ottoman Empire. This diversity was both a strength, in terms of cultural richness, and a source of tension, as identities hardened over time. The 19th century brought new challenges to the position of Islam in Bulgaria. As nationalist movements swept across the Balkans, Christianity and national identity became intertwined in Bulgarian resistance to Ottoman rule. For many Bulgarians, Islam came to be seen not only as a religion but also as the symbol of foreign domination. This perception hardened during uprisings such as the April Uprising of 1876 and during the Russo-Turkish War of 1877 to 1878, which ultimately led to Bulgarian liberation from Ottoman control. The war had devastating consequences for many Muslim communities in Bulgaria. As Russian forces advanced and Bulgarian revolutionary activity increased, large numbers of Muslims fled, were expelled, or perished in violence and reprisals. The Muslim population, which had grown over centuries, was dramatically reduced in the aftermath of Bulgarian independence. Many Muslims resettled in Ottoman lands, particularly in Anatolia, leaving behind abandoned villages and mosques. Those who remained often faced discrimination and marginalization in the new Bulgarian state. Despite this decline, Islam did not disappear from Bulgaria. Significant Muslim minorities continued to exist, particularly among the Turks, Pomoks, and Roma communities. These groups preserved their faith, traditions, and identity through difficult times, including the pressures of the communist period in the 20th century, when religion of all kinds was suppressed. Today, Islam remains the second largest religion in Bulgaria, practiced by around 10 to 12% of the population. Its presence is a living legacy of the centuries of Ottoman rule and the complex history of conversion, settlement, and coexistence. Mosques, both old Ottoman structures and newer constructions, continue to serve Muslim communities across the country. The Banyabashi Mosque in Sofia, built in the 16th century, stands as a prominent symbol of this enduring heritage. The story of Islam in Bulgaria is therefore not a simple tale of conquest or forced conversion. It is a multifaceted process shaped by political power, social dynamics, economic incentives, spiritual traditions, and cultural interactions. It reflects the broader history of the Balkans, where empires rose and fell, religions spread and adapted, and peoples of different faiths lived side by side in both cooperation and conflict. The rise of Islam in Bulgaria through Ottoman influence and local conversion illustrates how religions do not exist in isolation but are woven into the fabric of history, identity, and human experience. The spread of Islam in Bulgaria during the Ottoman period was not merely about religious transformation but also about the reshaping of society under a new imperial order. The Ottomans established a system that was both Islamic in its foundation and pragmatic in its governance, allowing a mosaic of communities to exist while promoting Islam as the faith of the ruling elite. The legacies of this period continue to influence Bulgaria today, not only in terms of religion but also in cultural practices, architecture, cuisine, and music that bear traces of Ottoman and Islamic influence. Even though the 20th century witnessed pressures on Muslim communities, particularly during the communist regime's attempts at forced assimilation, Islam has endured and adapted. Bulgarian Muslims today are an integral part of the national fabric, contributing to the country's diversity and serving as a reminder of its layered history. To truly appreciate the rise of Islam in Bulgaria, one must look beyond simplistic notions of forced conversion or peaceful coexistence and instead recognize the complexity of historical processes. Conversion to Islam in Bulgaria was influenced by multiple factors: the desire for economic relief from taxes, opportunities for career advancement, the influence of Sufi orders, the appeal of belonging to the dominant ruling class, and, at times, coercion or pressure. It was not uniform across regions, nor was it total in effect, but it left behind a significant and lasting community of Bulgarian Muslims who continue to shape the country's social landscape. The Pomaks, in particular, embody this history of conversion and adaptation. As Bulgarian-speaking Muslims, they straddle the line between two identities, maintaining their linguistic and cultural ties to the broader Bulgarian population while also holding on to their Islamic faith. Their existence challenges simplistic divisions between Christian Bulgarians and Muslim Turks, illustrating the hybrid identities that often emerge in regions of cultural and religious contact. In the Rhodope Mountains, where Pomak villages are nestled among the forests and valleys, one can still see the enduring imprint of this centuries-old process of Islamization. At the same time, Turkish Muslims in Bulgaria reflect the legacy of Ottoman settlement and the continued connections between Bulgaria and the broader Turkish world. Roma Muslims, too, add another layer of complexity, showing how Islam spread not only among Slavic and Turkish groups but also among other communities within the empire. Each of these groups contributes to the multifaceted picture of Islam in Bulgaria. Looking back, the Ottoman conquest of Bulgaria was the decisive turning point that introduced Islam into the region, but the persistence of Islam owes much to the local conversions and the resilience of Muslim communities across centuries of change. While the fall of the Ottoman Empire and the rise of the Bulgarian nation-state reshaped the demographic balance, Islam remained part of the country's religious landscape. Today, in a global context where interfaith relations are again at the forefront of social and political debates, the history of Islam in Bulgaria offers valuable lessons. It shows that religion spread not in isolation but through a complex interplay of politics, economics, culture, and spirituality. It demonstrates the possibilities of coexistence, however imperfect, and the ways in which communities adapt to changing circumstances. It also reminds us of the lasting impact of empires, whose legacies continue long after their political structures have disappeared. The rise of Islam in Bulgaria was neither a sudden imposition nor a passive acceptance. It was a centuries-long process shaped by human choices, pressures, and adaptations. It produced a community that continues to exist today, embodying the layered history of the Balkans. To understand Bulgaria fully, one must understand this Islamic dimension of its past and present, for it is a thread woven deeply into the fabric of the nation's story. Thanks for watching the video.